Nothing is more common than energy in money-making, quite independent of any higher object than its accumulation. A man who devotes himself to this pursuit, body and soul, can scarcely fail to become rich. Very little brains will do. Spend less than you earn. Add guinea to guinea. Scrape and save. And the pile of gold will gradually rise. Osterwald, the Parisian banker, began life a poor man. He was accustomed every evening to drink a pint of beer for supper at a tavern which he visited, during which he collected and pocketed all the corks that he could lay his hands on. In 8 years he had collected as many corks as sold for 8 louis d'ors. With that sum he laid the foundations of his fortune, gained mostly by stock jobbing, leaving at his death some 3 millions of francs. John Foster has cited a striking illustration of what this kind of determination will do in money-making. A young man who ran through his patrimony, spending it in profligacy, was at length reduced to utter want and despair. He rushed out of his house intending to put an end to his life, and stopped on arriving at an eminence overlooking what were once his estates. He sat down, ruminated for a time, and rose with the determination that he would recover them. He returned to the streets, saw a load of coals which had been shot out of a cart onto the pavement before a house, offered to carry them in, and was employed. He thus earned a few pence, requested some meat and drink as a gratuity, which was given him, and the pennies were laid by. Pursuing this menial labor, he earned and saved more pennies, accumulated sufficient to enable him to purchase some cattle, the value of which he understood, and these he sold to advantage. He proceeded by degrees to undertake larger transactions, until at length he became rich. The result was, that he more than recovered his possessions, and died an inveterate miser. When he was buried, mere earth went to earth. With a nobler spirit, the same determination might have enabled such a man to be a benefactor to others as well as to himself. But the life and its end in this case were alike sordid. To provide for others and for our own comfort and independence in old age, is honorable, and greatly to be commended. But to hoard for mere wealth's sake is the characteristic of the narrow-souled and the miserly. It is against the growth of this habit of inordinate saving that the wise man needs most carefully to guard himself, else, what in youth was simple economy, may in old age grow into avarice, and what was a duty in the one case, may become a vice in the other. It is the love of money, not money itself, which is the root of evil, a love which narrows and contracts the soul, and closes it against generous life and action. Hence, Sir Walter Scott makes one of his characters declare that the penny sealer slew more souls than the naked sword slew bodies. It is one of the defects of business too exclusively followed, that it insensibly tends to a mechanism of character. The businessman gets into a rut, and often does not look beyond it. If he lives for himself only, he becomes apt to regard other human beings only insofar as they minister to his ends. Take a leaf from such men's ledger and you have their life. Worldly success, measured by the accumulation of money, is no doubt a very dazzling thing. And all men are naturally more or less the admirers of worldly success. But though men of persevering, sharp, dexterous, and unscrupulous habits, ever on the watch to push opportunities, may and do get on in the world, yet it is quite possible that they may not possess the slightest elevation of character, nor a particle of real goodness. He who recognizes no higher logic than that of the shilling, may become a very rich man, and yet remain all the while an exceedingly poor creature. For riches are no proof whatever of moral worth, and their glitter often serves only to draw attention to the worthlessness of their possessor, as the light of the glowworm reveals the grub. The manner in which many allow themselves to be sacrificed to their love of wealth reminds one of the cupidity of the monkey, that caricature of our species. In Algiers, the Kabyle peasant attaches a gourd, well fixed, to a tree, and places within it some rice. The gourd has an opening merely sufficient to admit the monkey's paw. The creature comes to the tree by night, inserts his paw, and grasps his booty. He tries to draw it back, but it is clenched, and he has not the wisdom to unclench it. So there he stands till morning, when he is caught, looking as foolish as may be, though with the prize in his grasp. The moral of this little story is capable of a very extensive application in life. The power of money is on the whole overestimated. The greatest things which have been done for the world have not been accomplished by rich men, nor by subscription lists, but by men generally of small pecuniary means. Christianity was propagated over half the world by men of the poorest class. And the greatest thinkers, discoverers, inventors, and artists, have been men of moderate wealth, many of them little raised above the condition of manual laborers in point of worldly circumstances. And it will always be so. Riches are oftener an impediment than a stimulus to action. And in many cases they are quite as much a misfortune as a blessing. The youth who inherits wealth is apt to have life made too easy for him, and he soon grows sated with it, because he has nothing left to desire. Having no special object to struggle for, he finds time hang heavy on his hands. He remains morally and spiritually asleep. And his position in society is often no higher than that of a polypus over which the tide floats. His only labor is to kill the time, and labor dire it is, and weary woe. Yet the rich man, inspired by a right spirit, will spurn idleness as unmanly. And if he bethink himself of the responsibilities which attach to the possession of wealth and property, he will feel even a higher call to work than men of humbler lot. This, however, must be admitted to be by no means the practice of life. The golden mean of Ucker's perfect prayer is, perhaps, the best lot of all, did we but know it. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. The late Joseph Brotherton, MP, left a fine motto to be recorded upon his monument in the Peel Park at Manchester, the declaration in his case being strictly true: "My richness consisted not in the greatness of my possessions, but in the smallness of my wants." He rose from the humblest station, that of a factory boy, to an eminent position of usefulness, by the simple exercise of homely honesty, industry, punctuality, and self-denial. Down to the close of his life, when not attending Parliament, he did duty as minister in a small chapel in Manchester to which he was attached. And in all things he made it appear, to those who knew him in private life, that the glory he sought was not to be seen of men, or to excite their praise, but to earn the consciousness of discharging the everyday duties of life, down to the smallest and humblest of them, in an honest, upright, truthful, and loving spirit.